Brought to you by
Spectre Vision Radio.
I'm Ryan Singer. I've been a paranormal experiencer, investigator, and stand-up comedian for over 20 years. My new show, Late Night on the Astral Plane, combines my love of comedy and my obsession with the paranormal. My previous show, Me and Paranormal You, ran for nearly 13 years with almost 850 episodes. This new iteration will feature interviews with stand-up comedians, scientists, and everyday people sharing their extraordinary tales. This show is a safe place for the strange and the silly. So sit back, relax, get a milkshake, and take a voyage late night on the astral plane. Because it's more fun to believe.
The following podcast contains coarse language and subject matter that people might find disturbing. Listener discretion is advised. We are the weirdos. We are the ones who see things that are not there. We experience things that others don't. We get goosebumps when walking into a room. We see things out of the corners of our eyes. For some reason, the universe has chosen us to be sensitive, or maybe just more aware. It's been ridiculed for years. It's against religion, it defies God, and you'll go straight to hell. It's not normal and it's strange and it's dark. But for those that have been made fun of and swept under the rug and called crazy, we hear you. We are your lifeline. There are others out there. No more hiding in the shadows. The shadows are what unites us. We will continue to celebrate the unknown, have tarot readings, talk about UFO encounters, keep dream journals, see auras, believe in cultural folklore, have our fortunes told, and investigate the paranormal. You see, for us, this is normal. So don't be afraid. Come join us. Welcome to the world beyond the veil. This is Geist. The world has had an interesting time navigating through this global pandemic. Being isolated and at home allowed this podcast to be born, although a lot of our interviews were done remotely and over the phone. So naturally, it got me dreaming about traveling again. We've always explored North America hauntings, the old man lingering in the doorway, waking up in a pool of blood, the usual. But the world has more to offer. In the Philippines, it's not only the ghosts that haunt you. The folklore can be much more frightening.
Both my parents are from the Philippines, and they grew up in different parts of the Philippines. But regardless, it's funny how they both have the same perspective of the folklore that goes on in the Philippines.
My name is Bianca Yuzon-Henares. I'm a musician and co-founder of holistic art studio Grounded. I was born and raised in the Philippines, south side of Metro Manila and Muntinlupa City.
I was born in the Philippines and immigrated here when I was 23. So, I grew up there, and everyone's used to talk of supernatural happenings. Like even on Halloween, the 6 o'clock news had hour-long specials about supernatural happenings. The news. I never thought that was weird until I came here, actually.
On certain days like Halloween, All Souls Day, or Good Friday during Holy Week, we are told to be extra careful because spirits are lurking about and the veil between worlds is thinnest. It's also common knowledge that schools and universities are haunted by ghosts of students that have passed on, such as one girl that died in a freak accident at a school fair who still roams the grounds clutching her decapitated head.
And because the Philippines was colonized by Spain, a Catholic country, our mythology consists of creatures that originated from natives but sometimes have a religious connection or twist to them.
See, the Philippines has been colonized by Spain for 333 years, held by American rule for 48 years, and was under Japanese occupation for 3. All the while strongly influenced by Christianity, Chinese, and Malay culture through trade. And just as surviving and living a certain way has taught us the values of strength, strong family ties, creativity, community, and perseverance, we are a people that are no strangers to pain, suffering, and sacrifice. In many ways, though we celebrate our independence every 12th of June, we are still fighting for our freedom. And the ghosts of all those past and current wars fought linger on as reminders of what was once lost and what is at stake.
In general, the Philippines is a very religious country. It's very historic. So, when it comes to things like this, people would generally just pray or, go to church or speak to a priest or call some kind of witch doctor or medium or something like that to kind of handle the situation. You can grow up in completely different parts of a country, but you all have the same stories and urban myths, and so that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of the origin of these stories, especially out there, and it's always a little creepier in foreign countries.
The older I got, talking about the supernatural with friends, family, and new acquaintances became a regular occurrence. It seemed like every place we went that had some kind of history still kept a piece of that history lurking about.
So, it was never really questioned. Like, whenever I'd hear these stories, I don't think I was ever like, there's absolutely no way that happened. I just kind of accepted it and believed it. Everyone did.
And while these things would freak me out, a part of me also understood that it was part of the territory of the land we occupied and the energy surrounding it.
Filipinos are big on superstitions and supernatural happenings, and we have a lot of mythical creatures and different ones depending on what region or province you're from.
Here are some of the tales and folklore I grew up with. And most of these stories and creatures are pretty much common knowledge in any Pinoy or Filipino household.
A couple of them are duende, which is, I believe, something like fairies.
Duende, which are like dwarves or elves that live in grassy areas in the province.
When you walk by them, you kind of have to ask permission to even walk by.
So if you go out to a rural area, you're supposed to say tabi-tabi po, which pretty much means excuse me, because if you accidentally step on one of them, they might put a curse on you.
My mom said when I was a baby and they brought me home, the house was still being built. I would cry incessantly, and the construction workers tipped her off by saying they would see duende, or little dwarves trying to play with me in my crib. But I clearly did not want to play. My parents had the place blessed, and after that, I seemed more at peace and less rattled.
Aswang, which are, they're kind of like witches.
Aswang is an umbrella term for monsters or shape-shifting creatures in Philippine folklore.
What happens is they appear to be an entire body, but they're able to separate half of their body, their upper torso, and then they fly into the air, and the story goes that they might attack you, and which sounds a little crazy, but again, when you hear people from different areas tell the same kind of stories. That's how, it's kind of like how folklore, comes to life.
And then there's Chanak, which is absolutely terrifying to me. It's a demon that takes form as an innocent crying baby and lures people, so when the person picks it up, surprise, the baby's super ugly and super scary.
Chanak are somewhat demonic-looking creatures that are often disguised as normal babies at first, but their true form is more grotesque.
Chanaks are said to be the souls of babies who died before being baptized, or the souls of babies who were aborted, who have come back to take revenge on their mothers.
Next up, we have the tikbalang. A tikbalang is a half-human, half-horse creature. They are often described to be like reverse centaurs. Tikbalang are known to be able to shapeshift into relatives or other close acquaintances of any traveler that they come across in the wild. They then deceive their victims to going deeper into the woods or to a place far away where no one can come to their aid. In provinces such as Rizal, they have a better reputation, known as guardians of the forest, responsible for making trees and plants grow, helping the plant kingdom thrive. There's also an expression that goes, "May kinasal na tikbalang," whenever it rains but the sun is still out at the same time. This means there are tikbalangs getting married. Another variation of the aswang is the manananggal.
Manananggal, which is my favorite for some reason. The name is derived from the Tagalog word tanggal, which means to remove or to separate. So basically, during the day, she's a normal woman, but during the night, her upper body separates from her lower body, and she grows these black bat wings and flies around looking for pregnant women. She's said to have a very long tube-like tongue that slides into windows, finds the pregnant woman's belly button, and sucks the fetus out of the womb. It's pretty effed up, right?
I remember someone telling me before that their tongues can even be as thin as thread and almost as transparent, so you wouldn't even notice them dangling from the ceiling. To be rid of a manananggal, pour whatever spices and vinegars you have on their bodies, as they are apparently allergic to these savory kinds of sauces and spice.
There's another one called capre, which is like the closest thing I can compare it to that people would recognize is kind of like a Bigfoot type of creature.
Capre, who is this big, dark, hairy dude who hangs out in big trees with a cigar.
You can see them in the dark smoking a cigar. This one is kind of interesting because for the most part they're harmless, but they just sit in a tree and it's just scary because it's a giant Sasquatch-looking creature.
He always just seemed like a cool dude to me, just hanging out, smoking a blunt or something. They say if you get stuck somewhere walking around in circles, it's because he's playing with you and you're supposed to take off your shirt and wear it inside out. Yeah, it makes absolutely no sense.
They're just kind of looming over and, I'm sure you don't want to mess with a creature like that.
Duende, aswang, capre, chanak, manananggal, and tikbalang are only a few of the many folklore that exist in the Philippines, and as explained, these creatures change from region to region. What piqued my interest is when Richie told me he had a couple of stories from both his parents who had experiences with these folklore creatures. And they're terrifying.
My parents would tell me of stories of what their friends or family would have seen, and they talk about it as if it's kind of a casual thing. I was born in a Western country, so for my parents to come here and tell me stories like that and just tell it in a way where it's like they're not trying to impress me. They don't care if I believe it or not. It's for them it's kind of part of their reality. That's the thing that really interests me and intrigues me as far as this supernatural going on over there, So the way I remember and the way she remembers the story, my mom, is that they were walking through kind of a forest-looking area you're just walking in, and she described it as kind of maybe like ankle height water or like ankle deep. You know, you can see the bottom of it, like you can see the stones, and you know, they're just walking, hanging out, you're young, and it's the Philippines, so it's kind of, you know, a lot of it is not fully developed. And they were hanging out in a group, and they were walking in this water, and they noticed one of their friends was kind of straggling behind. And they didn't pay much attention to it, but they kept walking. And then she told me that she heard them struggling way behind them, like their friend was having a hard time and you know, fighting something, maybe making noise. And so they obviously stopped and turned around and went back. And from the distance, she said she saw them kind of falling into the water. Almost like, you know, like you're drowning, like you're sinking. And I guess they were so confused because, like I said, the water was so shallow. You know, so they kind of ran over, and the way she describes it is they were far enough that they couldn't get to her in time, and they're not sure where she went. She was gone. And I asked her, well, then what happened? Did you find her? And she's like, no, we don't know what happened. She's gone. You know, if you're wondering how it relates to the paranormal, it's just kind of, you know, in those areas, like I said, there's things like the duende, and there's things like, you know, these stories where they will, you know, consume you or possess you or take you, if they want to, if you don't ask permission to be in their home or be in their area. And to this day, she doesn't know where her friend went. And it's kind of, I know it's kind of casually talking about it, someone disappearing, but even she acknowledges that, you know. It gets a little deep, you know, sometimes it's something in your heart or the type of person you are, and these creatures or these entities can kind of sense that about you, and they take it upon themselves to make you pay the price. So my dad has another interesting story of when he was young in the Philippines.
Richie's dad recorded his story on his phone and sent it to us, right from Manila, where he lives, to give us his account of what he experienced.
I'll tell you a story about folklore, you know, ghost stories, fairy tales, you know, that when I was little, I mean, I don't really believe in those, but there's such one incident when I was a young lad, happened when I was going to in my university days. This happened when I was in the university, taking up agriculture. Part of our practicum is going out on the field, learning all the soils. And this happened while we were out on the field. One of my classmates was sitting on the side, you know, talking to someone.
And there was definitely, you know, a kid that was kind of, you know, a little off in his class. And he, you know, he was just a little different. But over time, they noticed he was a little more strange than usual. They would look over at him in class, and he would be kind of talking to himself.
Then we were kind of like, you know, feeling kind of weird because we thought he was just talking to himself. So we just kind of let it go by and figured this guy's a weirdo, you know. The next time we went to the field again, we saw one of the same classmate talking, you know, chatting away, you know, but there's nobody there. You know, so we approached him and he said, "Hey, who are you talking to, man?" I mean, and then he said, "Hey, you know, hey, can't you see him?" I said, "See who?" You know, he just said, "Oh, there's a little guy, you know, here, our folklore, we call them duende, which is like a leprechaun, you know." So in a way, we just kind of scratch our heads and, you know, started laughing, and we just left him, and still thinking, you know, he's a really strange guy, you know. We went out on the field again, and he wasn't there.
And then a little over time, he stopped coming to class. They noticed he was gone. You know, these are kids, right? So this is kind of like a big deal to them. So they were asking around, where is he? What happened to him? And it turns out that he got really sick and he was at home.
Then a week go by and we haven't heard from him. So we found out later that he's at home and he was sick. So we went to visit him, you know, went to his house. He was lying in bed, and there was like we call him a medicine doctor, you know.
That it was such a concern that his family called kind of a medium or like a witch doctor kind of thing, because it was a strange way that he was sick. He was speaking in different voices and he was acting erratic. Basically what you would identify as kind of possession behavior.
Yeah, we tried to say hi to our classmate, but he keeps talking gibberish and we didn't understand what he's talking about. But the medicine doctor was performing some kind of ritual, you know, saying a prayer, and he asked us, like, you know, if we could, you know, hold him down.
He was telling me that the witch doctor, the medium, took a piece of paper with water on it and put it on the kid's forehead.
First, he put water on it, like, and then started saying some prayer or whatever, and sticking my classmate's forehead.
And it made the shape of two figures, which ultimately meant that there were two entities inside the kid.
You know, and we look at one another and say, what? You know, what the hell's going on? So, okay, we kind of like, there was like probably 6 of us trying to hold him down, and he starts cursing and, you know, screaming. It wasn't his voice, like a different voice came out.
Just imagine a kid on the bed and him and a bunch of his friends. He said there were about 5 or 6 of them. And the witch doctor said, hold him down, because he started to get erratic after identifying these two entities in his body. So 5, 6 kids and this witch doctor are holding him down.
And then, you know, the medicine doctor was trying to say some kind of like, I think a prayer, you know. So we're all looking at one another and go, Jesus, you know. And all of a sudden, our classmate kind of like, he got up and everybody, like, he was so strong. I mean, he threw us all out. Like,
this boy was so strong that he lifted everyone up at the same time, and they all fell back.
We all went flying. I said, "Oh, OMG, what's going on here?"
And they all freaked out and just ran out of the house.
Then the medicine doctor started screaming, "Get away from him!" Sort of an exorcist. At the time, I didn't understand what exorcism was. So we all ran outside. We were so scared, and I waited for the medicine doctor, and our classmate kind of calmed down, and the doctor was screaming at him, and so we all kind of left, right?
He couldn't believe that this kid lifted everyone up, because just imagine, there's someone holding both legs, there's someone holding his arms, there's and even though they're all kids, you're still, when you're a kid, you're just as strong as the other kid. You can hold them down, especially 5 people holding someone down, and he lifted everyone up.
After this event, this exorcism, Richie's dad arrived at school one morning to find that his classmate, the one that had suffered the possession, had returned.
And one day in school, we saw our classmate, he looks like he's all fine now, And we were sitting in the canteen, having lunch. And we saw him somewhere out on the field talking to somebody. So we came over and asked him, I said, "Hey, dude, who are you talking to, man?" "Well, you can't see him." He goes, "He's right in front of me." I said, "Well, no, we don't see nobody, And what's he saying? What are you guys talking about?" I said, "Well, he wants me to follow him, he wants me to come with him." And I said, we kind of look at one another and said, wondering what the hell's going on.
Richie's father had decided that this situation was a little bit more than what he could handle.
Two days later, we found out he was dead.
Not too long after they found out that the kid had passed away. He just, whatever was going on with him, whatever had possessed him had ultimately taken over.
And then we went to his house and asked what happened, and he apparently kept saying that I gotta go with this guy, I gotta go with this little guy. And so he did go with him, and I guess that's when he passed away.
This kid had an encounter with the duende and kind of thought, to befriend them, and thought they were, on his side. But as you can imagine, they were basically, taking him as a possession.
That was like really weird for all of us, and yeah, I will never forget that, that kind of experience. I mean, I never believed in that stuff until now that I'm older now, but understand what exorcism is, and people getting possessed by. That's one of my weird experience when I was a young lad.
And again, my dad would tell me this story as if, that's fact. That's what it is,
In the end, I don't know what to believe. I believe there are things out there that our human minds don't fully understand. Like, God, angels, ghosts, aliens, Elon Musk. And because we're human, we just have to think we know everything, and we try so hard to fill in the blanks, but in the end, we'll never really know for sure what the truth is or how to fully explain things. But the experiences are real. You can try to science your way out of it, but in the end, the experiences are very real to these people, and you just can't argue with that.
I don't want to blame everything on paranormal, the paranormal or something supernatural, because I want to have authentic experiences. So I want to know that this stuff is real, because I believe this stuff is real, and there's a whole other plane of existence that's not as tangible as the reality we know.
Just as they say the Earth is like a grain of sand in the grand scheme of the cosmos, and that somewhere in space, intelligent alien life, which we may or may not have encountered yet, exists. I believe that this physical plane we reside in is one of many levels of existence, and that no matter where you are in the world, these planes intersect. But in some places and instances, as a result of collective belief systems, stagnant, hostile, or good quality energy, unfinished business, one's openness or receptivity to what lays beyond, and many other factors, the doorway to these other realms may be a tad bit more open than others. And from this perspective, the Philippines is definitely one big portal or doorway.
Special thanks goes to Richie and his dad, Bianca and Bridget, for contributing to this episode. Please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. It would mean a lot to us. Geist is written and directed by Danielle Matar. Original score and sounds by Beau Jensen. Geist logo is designed by Jake Carruthers. Geist artwork is by Danielle Matar. Story submissions can be sent to hello.geist.podcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram and on TikTok at Geist_podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, sleep tight.
Now receiving frequency transmission.
What scares me is getting stuck really late at night in an unfamiliar town at some intersection that has an inexplicable red light that shouldn't even be red because there's no one around for miles. It's 3 a.m. and yet there I am, the engine idling and the seconds are ticking and I'm looking to the left and looking to the right in the shadows. At that moment, I'm always convinced that I've been set up by the forces of darkness, and this is the moment when something is going to come out of the dark at my car, and that thing is going to be, I don't know, let's just say the Wendigo, sure.
Transmission complete. Stay tuned to Spectrovision Radio. Stay.